Okay, let's start. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon sa iba. Okay, so we are now on chapter 3, the decision makings in economics. Okay. All right, so let's start. So before we ask what are the questions to be made in decision making, we again must identify yung importance of the concept of scarcity. Okay, because this is the central issue of economics. Now, what do we do with scarcity? But it's the proper management on how we maximize this limited resource. Okay, so we ask ourselves with these economic questions: what to produce, how many and how much to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, and what price to produce. So the answers to these 5 questions should coincide with each other to make the proper decision making when it comes to managing scarcity or scarce resources. Okay, so first is what to produce. Now, as a business owner, this is something that we should answer. Producers determine the needs and wants of their consumers. Okay, what again is needs and wants? And something, this concept we have already discussed on the last chapter. We identify the needs and wants of the consumers before knowing what to produce. Consumers and customers are generally referred as to the market. So long as these groups of people may have the money or the purchasing power, they would buy and they are willing to spend their money in exchange of our goods and services. Producers are on the supply side, while the consumers are on the demand side. And all throughout our topics this semester in economics, we will always talk about the supply and the demand. Okay. So what the market demands are generally called as the products. A tangible product is called as a good, and an intangible product is called as a service. So what are needs and wants? Again, needs are things we simply cannot live or survive without. These are the natural essentials for survival. For example, we need food, shelter, clothes. These are needs. Now, what is the difference now between wants and needs? Wants are those that can live without or those not necessary for one's survivals. But this is now the modification of a need. For example, I need food. Ayan, the need is the food. The want is now the preference of the need. So food can be pwede in forms of maybe yung rice meal, burger, at kung ano pa ang types ng food. Those are now the wants, the preference of the need. Okay? So how many and how much to produce? This is the second question we should ask. Market aggregation is the approach by which economists determine the needs and wants of an entire group of people who are usually located in one place. If you are in the producer side, it's very important that you identify how much to produce. Okay? It should be not over yung optimal level or under the optimal level. For example, again, if we go back to our farmers, this is a common problem usually for production of vegetables. Sometimes we overproduce yung vegetables to the point that there's no demand. What we are going to do with that product is itatapon natin because these are oversupply. Other instances then, if we undersupply, okay, there is a greater demand as compared to the produced products. The prices will go up. Diba? If you remember our discussion dun sa sile, dun sa Manila, because there is little supply of that product, the price sometimes is insane, diba? To the point that a kilo or not even a kilo of sile, umabot siya ng thousands of pesos. Okay? So again, if we are on the producer side, it is very important that we know how much to produce. Okay? What is most important is that decision is based on how products are most wanted or most valued by the society. Okay? So we only produce products based on the demand of the customers. wrong decision making being done by business owners is sometimes they produce the amount that the owner wants to produce, not on the side of the customers. Okay. Market segmentation, on the other hand, is the approach used by economists to determine only specific demands of a smaller market. And for producers, this is something they can use to strategize the number of units or products they will be producing by identifying the specific customer base that will buy their product. Okay. For example, and if we will try to produce a commodity, okay, let's say I am a restaurant producing salads, yan, mga healthy foods. Would I produce many units of the salads, not knowing kung sino ba ang bibili sa akin? Siyempre, I should know the level or the amount or the number of customers that are willing to buy my salad. Okay? Again, we must know the demand first before producing the number of products. Ayan. Market segmentation is more helpful for determining the total demand of the branded items where people use their discretion and power of choice. For large companies, usually they hire yung mga marketing teams to identify the market segment of a specific product. Now, by identifying this specific number of people who will buy the product, yung kanilang production is much more efficient. Walang oversupply, walang undersupply. Ayan. The smaller markets identified with the use of market segmentation are normally called as target market, since they allow producers to produce their products and selling efforts for them. Okay. Ayan. After identifying the number of products to be produced, we must know how to produce the product. Developed countries usually employ more capital-intensive production processes. This is only applicable for countries who have high production equipment or capabilities. For example, China, they have the facilities, diba, and the factories to produce yung mga ganitong products. This means that more machines are used in the production process as compared to manual effort involved. Some companies, they prefer to produce their products na using yung mga equipment. Dahil when you use yung mga equipment or machineries, the quality can be maintained by each product, and the faster it will produce more items at the fastest rate. Okay. Labor-intensive production, on the other hand, utilize more manual effort than machine contributions. Now, this is applicable for third world countries such as the Philippines, that we do not have infrastructures for automated production, that we rely on labor sa tao. Okay? Yeah. Now, after knowing how to produce the product, okay, we now identify for whom to produce. Answering this question not only entails using market aggregation or segmentation techniques to determine national or specific targets respectively, but also entails determining how the products will be distributed to these markets. So dito na pupunta si marketing channels. Okay? After we produce the product, how can we transfer the product to the end users? Okay? It is now a problem, especially for perishable products, tulad ng ating mga vegetables. No? When we transfer these products from one place to another, yung travel time may affect, di ba, yung quality of the product. Okay? Ang challenge dito is, makakaabot pa ba siya dun sa destination with the same quality nung linabas natin siya from our production area. Okay? Yeah. So distribution, for whom to produce is more on distribution, no? How we distribute the products to the end users. Okay, and the next question is, at what price to produce? This question determines how much consumers are willing to pay for the product, even if there is already a demand. And if the price is agreeable on the part of the producers. Now, it is more of a contract, no? An agreeable contract that the customer is willing to pay, the amount he is willing to pay, at yung amount naman on the part of the supplier that he is willing to receive. So there should be an agreement. Okay? Ayan. Usually the price varies, no, based on the demand and supply. Later on in our pag nagko-compute na tayo mamaya, we will see, no, on how price changes based on the level of demand, based on the level of supply. Okay, the price is representative of a cost on the part, but to the producer, the price represents both the cost and the profit. In your other subjects, you are going to compute yung costing. I think you have subjects na costing. Now you will identify, di ba, the cost in producing a product and the marginal profit that you will put into the product. Okay? So that you will have income or profit sa business. Ayan. Okay. Again, the point here is the supply side, which is the producers, and the demand side, which is the consumers, should agree on a price. Okay. Ayan. So what are now the basic economic activities? Ayan. So we have 4 activities. It is the production, distribution, exchange, and the consumption. Usually this is a step-by-step procedure. Okay? And we start from the production. The first activity directly addressed to the basic economic question of what to produce, how many or how much to produce, and how to produce products. Okay? Wait lang. Just lang natin to. All right. Now let's continue. Ayan. And these are the questions now that we ask ourselves earlier. Okay. Ayan. So these are the type of goods na usually producers are trying to process or to produce. We have the basic goods. These are the primary and necessary items needed for man to survive. Usually these are the products that satisfies the basic needs of the consumer, such as we have food, clothing, and shelter. Next now is we have the luxury goods, items that are desired by man to have more comfortable way of life, or the wants, satisfying the wants of the consumers. These are not necessarily for survival and often more expensive as compared to the basic goods. For example, we have the mansions. Diba? Mansions naman is a type of house, but the need, diba, is shelter. A small house can satisfy the need, pero some people want mansions. Okay, nakita nyo na yung want. It's a luxury. We have high-end cars and we have jewelry. Okay. Next type of goods is we have the public goods, goods that are provided by the government for the benefit of the population or constituents, such as our infrastructures. We have the highways, bridges, waiting sheds. We have our public hospitals, public schools, public libraries. These are public goods. Okay. Is it necessary to provide public goods? Yes. Kasi this is now kung saan napupunta yung ating mga tax payments. Free goods naman, goods that are normally abundant and do not need to be paid for. Okay, something that there is enough supply for everyone and no one will capitalize for these goods, such as spring water or clean water, oxygen, and even yung ating mga resources that can be found in nature, such as rocks. No? Very questionable ngayon ng spring water. Dahil sabi nila dati, di ba, ang water, I still remember in the 90s, when water, the concept of a water purifying station is not, walang ganung concept. No? Kasi water, there was a time na yung water na galing sa gripo is pwedeng inumin. But now, we have yung mga purifying stations, and it is becoming a standard already that we drink water that is clean. No? Ayan. Siguro oxygen next, no? Pero hopefully not. All right. And we have the economic goods. Goods that are normally produced or are scarce, requiring a certain payment for their consumption. Such as we have the, taas ko lang yung mukha ko, processed food, mineral water, and of course your branded clothes. Ayan na yung ating mineral water. Okay? So those are the types of goods, no, in the production. How about the distribution? Now, the second activity in economics is known as the distribution. It addresses the question for whom to produce. It focuses on how the products will reach to the ultimate consumers. Okay. Now we have an example. The best example I can give here is yung uso na nangyayari ngayon sa Facebook, which is the reselling. Ayan. I'm sure some of you are doing that business. Diba? Nagre-resell kayo, nagbebenta kayo ng merchandise to end consumers. Now, how does distribution work on that concept? Okay. Now, these products is nanggagaling sa manufacturer. Okay. The manufacturers will sell their products to the wholesalers. Okay. Ito yung mga bultuhan na bumibili ng products directly from the factory. Now, from the wholesalers, binebenta naman nila sa retailers, or the term being used now in Facebook market is your resellers. Okay? So these wholesalers will sell you the product and you will now distribute the product to the end users. Resellers will sell the product to the users. Yung mga nakikita natin sa Facebook. Yung mga bumibili sa Facebook. Now, in that concept, nakikita na natin yung distribution of the product from the manufacturer until it will reach to the ultimate consumer or the end user. Okay? The one who will actually use the product. Okay? Kaya sometimes you notice, diba, the price of the product is increasing as compared dun sa factory price because dun sa channels na kanyang dinadaanan. Okay? Every channel na dinadaanan ng produkto is, syempre, the price will be increasing. And what would be the basis ng price increase? This is now the price of distribution. Okay? Mas mahal yan until it will reach to the end user. Sir, paano ko ba mabibili yan ng hindi mahal? You go directly to the factory. And only if the factory is willing to sell you the product ng isa-isa. Usually kasi for factories or manufacturers, they will only sell the product ng bultuhan, maramihan. Okay? Yeah. Distribution. And next now is the exchange. Now this is the third economic activity. Okay? This is now the transfer of the good or service from the producer to the consumer. And what would be the exchange? The consumer, the producer will give you the product. In exchange, you will give the payment in legal tender. Okay? Ayan. So there's now an exchange. An exchange only occurs when both parties agree or when the consumer agrees with the price of the producers. So there is actually parang bargaining factor or bargaining power. I think that is the right term. The bargaining power of the consumers to reduce the price of the product. Because sometimes we see products that are very expensive, that is not equal to the quality of the product. Yet they are still expensive. For how many years the price is still there? The reason is because there are customers who are willing to pay for the price of that product. The only way for that product to reduce its price if there is no customer or no people who will want to buy that product at that price. That is now the bargaining power of the consumers. Kung walang bibili niyan, eventually the price will go down. But as long as there is someone who is willing to pay for that price, the price will remain. Okay? Even if some may print na hindi naman ganyan ang price niya, masyadong mahal, again, if someone is willing to pay for that price, the price will remain. Okay? A standard medium of exchange is used to facilitate transactions. And ito na yung ating legal tender. Money is used, but it should be generally accepted in a territory. Okay, in the Philippines, our legal tender is Philippine peso. Sir, pwede ba tayong mag-accept ng dollars as payment sa ating mga products? Well, generally, no. Okay? We must always accept only the legal tender for a country. Sir, ba't di ako mag-accept ng dollars? Dollars pa rin naman yan. Now, the problem if we accept currencies, other currencies from other countries, there would be fluctuation in exchange rates. By now, sa tingin mo, tama yung binayad sa'yo by dollars, pero hours from now or days from now, the price or the value of that dollar will change. It will either drop or increase. Malas mo pag nag-drop kasi lugi ka na agad doon. If it increase, swerte mo. But then again, the point is it will be fluctuating. That's why in order to know the right or the exact value of the product, we must always exchange only using legal tender or the Philippine peso. Okay? Ayan. So those are the 4 activities. Let's review lang. Ayan. Production, distribution, exchange. I forgot to put a slide sa consumption. Ayan. So let's just discuss the consumption part. When you see consumption, ito na yung the user is utilizing the product or using the product. For example, if it is food, once na natapos na yung exchange, di ba? Anong gagawin niya sa pagkain? Of course, he will or she will consume or eat the food. Yun na yung ating consumption. Okay? All right. So our next topic would be now the factors of production. And I think we have already discussed this in the last topic. Pasadahan lang natin the factors of production. So what are again the factors of production? But traditionally, we have 3: the labor, capital, and the land. And when you say land, these are the natural resources. Okay? I have used a different term here. Pero ito, labor is the human resources, capital is the financial resources, and land is the natural resources. And of course, we have the 4 factors of production, which is important, is the entrepreneurship. What again is entrepreneurship? The ability to make the proper decisions in order to maximize the other scarce resources. Ayan, yung labor, capital, and land. Okay, so capital, man-made resources used in production process. And what is the most man-made na resource talaga? It's the financial resource or money or capital. Ayan. So money, saan mapupunta si money? It will go to the purchase of machines, di ba? The purchase of buildings and equipments. Ayan. The payment for capital is known as interest or interest payments. If you have, let's say you do not have any savings and you opted for a business loan from a financial institution, and you are paying in interest. And actually, these resources have payments. We will see. For capital, the payment is interest payment. For the land naman, again, these are natural resources, no, that we can see from nature. Yan, yung mga raw materials, especially found in their natural states. Ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng natural states? For example, for vegetables, di ba? Yung naka-harvest pa lang siya, that is the natural states. Or another term for natural states is the product or the raw materials is not yet processed. Okay? The payment for land and resources are called rent or rent payments. Okay? Labor naman, labor is needed in the production process to properly use the capital and the land. Again, we cannot put up a business without hiring people. Okay? Ayan. Under the supervision or instruction of the entrepreneur to produce goods or services. Labor encompasses all manpower requirements and the payment is called as salary. Okay? Ayan. And last is now the entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurial ability. Okay, refers to the skill of the owner of the producer to make, to combine all the factors of production to produce the maximum amount of goods and services. Okay, again, the importance of having good entrepreneurial ability will dictate the success of your business. Again, di ba, we need to manage the other resources. For human resource, ano uli ang gagawin natin? We must keep them happy, motivated, and well compensated. For the natural resources, we must maximize the use of raw materials without compromising, di ba, the overuse of our nature. And for the capital, we must make the proper decisions to maximize the limited money we have. Diba? A good entrepreneur can turn 10,000 pesos into 1 million by making the good decisions, making good decisions. The payment naman for the entrepreneurship is profit. Ayan. Is known as your profit. Ayan. Okay, so what are the common economic goals of countries? Now, these are common goals from different countries. Economic growth is always the number one goal. Increase the number of goods and services produced in a country. If there are more businesses or more producers in a country, the GDP will go up, the value of money will go up, and eventually, poverty can be eliminated. Economic development, improvement, and speaking of poverty, improvement in the quality of life of the people. And they would be more income for the people, and they could also spend more to improve their quality of life. Full employment, the presence and availability of jobs for those who are able and willing to work. In the Philippines, our number one resource is always labor, kasi there are a lot of people, diba? There are a lot of graduates being produced in a yearly basis. So there should be more businesses or more producers who can offer more jobs. Economic efficiency, achieving the maximum fulfillment of wants using the available productive resources. And something that is we really want to achieve for all countries is the stability of prices, absence of wide fluctuation in price. In some other countries, they cannot achieve yung economic stability because their demand and supply side is hindi nagme-meet. And some countries, I believe they are overproducing yung money, diba, kasi money is being printed. And if you do that, there would be fluctuations. There would be overpriced products. If there are more money being produced, their prices of the products will also increase, and they are now experiencing new hyperinflation to the point that I forgot the country. I think this is I will try to remember yung country, pero when they are buying a piece of yung isang itlog, they are paying millions millions nung kanilang legal tender para for a piece of egg. And something na in the Philippines, hopefully we will not experience. Economic freedom, the freedom to do economic activities within the legal framework of the economy. Ayan. Economic security, the assurance of fulfillment of economic needs of every member of society, even our handicap, yung ating mga PWD. Yung hindi sila naghihirap. Ayan. So let's just mag-overview tayo dito sa economic system. Okay, economic system is a mechanism in a country which deals with the production, distribution, exchange, and consumption of goods and services. Doon lang naman tumatakbo ang ating economy. Production, distribution, exchange, and the consumption of goods. So these four economic activities must be present to improve our economy. So the economic system is composed of people, institutions, and the relationship between these parties. It is designed primarily to address the problems of economics in a country, particularly the allocation of scarce resources. Something we should really do in the Philippines. The only resource that is not scarce naman in the Philippines is the labor or human resource. Otherwise, other resources are scarce, are very, very limited, especially when the human population in the Philippines is increasing at a rapid rate. Eventually, we will run out of resources. Ayan. So economic systems, here are some examples. Or here are the common economic systems. We have the pure capitalism. So the market decides. Is there an existence of freedom of enterprise? Yes. Degree of government intervention? Very little. And in early industrial experiences. For socialism, socialism, the production decisions now, the state decides on the major and basic products to be produced. So there is a high level of government intervention dito. Ayan. One example of this socialism is China. China under the Mao Zedong, they are now dictating on the major and basic products only to be produced by the company. So there is no freedom, or there is little freedom, no, for businesses. Communism naman, state decides on major and basic products. For socialism, diba, there's limited or little. But for communism, there is really no freedom of enterprises. So whatever the government says that you will produce and the number of units you will produce, kailangan mo lang sundin yun. Kasi their intervention is absolute. Now we need to follow whatever the government will say. So examples, we have the former Soviet Union and now Cuba. Fascism naman, production decisions will come from the individual and groups. Very high, actually, there is a very high freedom of enterprise. Government encourage material accumulation and consumption. And an example dito, if you go to Italy or places in Europe, you seldom notice na businesses usually will come from household. Yan, meron yung mga restaurants doon na galing sa bahay, bars na galing lang sa bahay, kasi the production, it depends on the household or the individuals, which is very good, no, for Europe, I guess, kasi I think in the Philippines hindi yan applicable, pero Europe really is a great example of an economic system na fascism. Okay, ayan. For mixed economies naman, let me just remove my face there. Mixed economies, we have the dynamic interaction between the market and the government. So usually there's an intervention being done by the government. At the same time, the market has a power when it comes to dictating the production. Existence of freedom, we have yes, but the government, with government participation, especially for basic needs. So the government only imposes on regulations. In the Philippines, we have now the mixed economies. Kasi producers have the freedom to produce the products. Pero papasok si government to stabilize the prices. Diba? Usually they set yung mga price ceilings or yung mga price floorings of the basic goods. Ayan. For example, yung mga gulay natin, di ba? Rine-report yung mga presyo ng gulay. And this is a price that is standard for all sellers of that particular product sa palengke. Ayan. So modern day countries, including Philippines. So nandun na tayo sa mixed economies. Okay? So that's it. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of chapter 3. No, we are already on chapter 3. Napakabilis nitong aking discussion ata. Kasi during midterms, we only have 4 topics. No? And we are already on the 3rd topic. So I guess we need to stretch yung ating midterms. So I will be giving more activities for you to really understand the topics that has already been discussed. Okay? So I guess that's it. No? That is our chapter 3. Again, this is a recorded session. Kasi we are currently under accreditation, so I cannot meet you in our synchronous meetings. So once again, for those who have finished this video, please, I need you to comment your name and section on the comment box for your attendance. Okay, so thank you for viewing this chapter 3 discussion, and I will see you next time. Have a good day. Goodbye.